You don't deserve that penthouse. Hand the keys over now. Her voice sliced through the decorated ballroom, louder than the music, sharper than the crystal glasses clinking nearby. 50 heads turned at once, eyes pinning me like I was some stranger trespassing at my own brother's wedding. The air froze. My pulse pounded so violently it drowned out the violin. Then smack. My mother's palm collided with my cheek so hard my earring shot across the marble floor, spinning like a coin. Gasps burst out. Whispers spread like fire. Did she just? In front of everyone. Hi, I'm Camille Rivers.
I'm 29.
And if you believe family loyalty outshines public humiliation, let me show you what betrayal truly looks like. Tell me, what weighs more, silence or shame? The chandeliers glittered above like cruel stars mocking me. My brother kept grinning stiffly, pretending the cake, the roses, the polite laughter mattered more than the sting blazing on my cheek. I wanted to scream, to lash out. Instead, I straightened my spine. I refused to give her the spectacle she craved. I bent down, picked up the earring, clipped it back on, and walked toward the exit. Guests parted silently, like I was fire they dared not touch. Each strike of my heels echoed louder than the band still playing. Enough! 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 Outside, the night air sliced against my skin. My phone trembled in my hand, not from cold, but from rage demanding release. I dialed one number. My voice was steady, my words precise. Because revenge doesn't roar. It whispers. An hour later, a black car rolled to a stop before the reception hall. The man who stepped out wasn't just anyone. When my mother glimpsed him through the glass doors, her face drained white. Her hands shook. And then she screamed. That scream shattered the reception like glass. Guests froze. The chatter died mid-breath. The music stuttered, then fell silent. He stepped forward, tall, composed, his tailored suit carrying the kind of weight no one could mistake. He wasn't family. He wasn't friend. He was a storm disguised in polished shoes. What is he doing here? My mother spat. But her trembling voice betrayed her. My brother stiffened at the altar. His bride clutched his arm, wide-eyed, terrified. Every gaze in the room locked on me. Perfect. They had humiliated me under chandeliers. I would answer beneath the same lights. The man's eyes found mine. He nodded once, respectful, before fixing his gaze on my mother. We need to talk, he said. His low voice carrying iron. Mom staggered backward as if the marble cracked beneath her heels. Not here. Not tonight. Too late, he replied. Gasps rippled like waves. Guests leaned closer, breathless moths drawn to flame. My mother, the queen of composure, patron saint of appearances, was unraveling. Her fingers toyed with the pearls at her neck, her breath sharp and shallow. She was remembering. The documents. The lies. The debts she buried so deep they could choke us all. Silence had been her weapon. But tonight, silence was mine to break. The man slid a folder onto the nearest table. Thick. Heavy. Damning. Her painted nails clawed at the air. You wouldn't, she whispered. I tilted my head. My lips curved, not into a smile, but into something colder. The music would never start again. The vows would hang unfinished. And every guest would leave carrying a story, not of cake or champagne, but of the empire that collapsed at my mother's feet on her son's wedding day. And this story was only beginning. My mother lunged for the folder. Her fingers trembled. The man's hand pressed it down, firm, unyielding. Gasps filled the air again, circling the hall like smoke. The bride's mother clutched her daughter, whispering frantically into her ear. My brother's jaw tightened. His lips pressed shut as if he finally realized this wedding no longer belonged to him. The man's voice cut through the heavy silence. Every figure, every form, every transfer is here, he said. He wasn't shouting, yet his tone struck like a judge's gavel. I felt dozens of eyes pierce me, weighing me against the woman who had slapped me moments before. But this time their stares weren't pitying. They were sharp, questioning. Who was I if I could bring him here? My mother's legs wavered, her fingers gripping the back of a chair to steady herself. Her pearl bracelet slipped down her wrist with a faint clink, like chains snapping. Camille, she rasped, strangled. You don't know what you're doing. But I did. Oh, I knew. For years I'd swallowed silence. Tonight I severed the strings. My heels echoed as I stepped closer. You wanted my penthouse, Mom? My voice was steady. Tell them how you plan to fund it with money that was never yours. A murmur rose, whispers buzzing like a disturbed hive. My brother edged toward me, but his bride gripped his arm, fear widening her gaze. Then the man opened the folder. Paper spilled out like truth set free. Bank slips, signatures, transfers. The sound of pages sliding across linen was louder than music. My mother's mask cracked. Her breath shook. Her hands trembled. For once, the woman who owned every room looked small. The sting on my cheek still burned, but tonight her empire burned hotter. Chandeliers gleamed cruelly as guests leaned in, eyes devouring scandal. Her polished charities, interviews, and perfect image bled ink in front of them. She clawed for the documents, but his hand stopped her again, calm, immovable. "Stop this," she snapped, but her voice broke in half. I folded my arms, stone still. "You wanted my humiliation," I whispered. "Now let them see the truth. All of it." The whispers thickened, storm-like. I heard fragments: embezzlement, her daughter, did she slap her? My brother paled, sweat at his temples. His bride's lips thinned, her eyes flicking between us. Reevaluating vows spoken minutes ago. Mom slammed her fist down, the crack startling. "You don't understand, Camille," she screamed. "This is bigger than me. It's about family, about your brother." Family. That word stung like acid. I laughed, bitter, sharp. "Family, you never let me forget my place. You've been slapping me down all my life. Tonight I don't bow." Her eyes burned, not with grief but rage. She looked like a queen watching her crown fall into fire. The man slid a single page forward, pointing to the header. Property fraud investigation. The gasp was deafening. Mom froze, her face carved into marble. I leaned close, my voice like ice. "The slap stung, Mom, but the silence after will ruin you." And in that silence, 50 witnesses sat, watching the woman who once commanded every glance realize her throne had crumbled. The word fraud lingered, heavy smoke in the air, impossible to dismiss. I saw it etch into their minds, neighbors, colleagues, relatives, already rehearsing how they'd retell tonight. Tomorrow. My brother finally broke the silence. "Mom, is it true?" His voice was strained, thin with disbelief. She spun toward him, frantic. "Don't you dare question me. Not today. Not on your wedding day." Her hand reached for him, but he recoiled, shame flickering across his face as he realized dozens of guests were watching. The man, steady as stone, folded his hands. "It's all here," he said. "Every transfer, every account, every property hidden, including the penthouse you tried to claim tonight." I lifted my chin. The sting of her slap still burned, but now it glowed into something fiercer, clarity. "You wanted to humiliate me, Mom, but the truth humiliates you." The bride's father cleared his throat, his voice low yet sharp. "We don't tolerate scandals," he muttered, just loud enough to be heard. The bride turned to him, wide-eyed, realizing her new family wasn't gilded. It was rotten beneath the gold. My mother's breath came shallow, her pearls rising and falling like a failing heartbeat. "Camille," she whispered, her voice splintering like glass. "You'll regret this. You've ruined everything." I tilted my head, letting silence stretch, letting her words choke in the hall. "No, Mom," I answered softly, making the crowd lean closer. "You ruined everything when you chose reputation over blood." The whispers grew into voices now, no longer secretive but damning. "Lawyers. Skandal. Prison." Each word landed heavy. My mother swayed beneath the weight. Then the man snapped the folder shut, the sound like a verdict. "Consider this your notice," he said evenly. "Next time we won't meet at a wedding. We'll meet in court." The silence was deafening. My mother's empire hadn't cracked. It had collapsed before 50 witnesses. And I hadn't even raised a hand. Above me, the chandeliers burned, but inside me another light flared brighter. This was only the beginning. The wedding no longer felt like celebration. It had become trial and sentence. Roses and champagne soured into fear, judgment, shame. My brother stood frozen, his bride trembling. Bouquet sagging as petals fell like broken promises. His voice wavered. "Tell me it isn't true, Mom." Tell me Camille's lying. Her hands shook as she reached for him, pleading eyes desperate for loyalty she no longer owned. I did everything for you, for this family. You think she understands sacrifice? She knows nothing of carrying weight. But her words sounded hollow. Guests folded their arms, eyes narrowing. No defense. No comfort. The queen stood alone, crown shattered. I turned to my brother, locking eyes for the first time all night. She isn't protecting you, I said quietly. She's protecting herself. And if you don't see it now, you'll drown with her. His throat tightened, Adam's apple rising like stone. For a second I thought he'd lash out. But then his bride stepped forward, voice trembling yet resolute. I can't marry into this. She ripped the veil from her head, letting it drop like innocence discarded, and fled through the doors into her father's arms. Gasps tore the hall. My brother staggered, struck by the sight of the veil on the marble, his future unraveling thread by thread. My mother lunged toward him. No, don't let her go. We can fix this. We can. But he shoved her hand aside. A small motion, yet it thundered louder than music ever had. His rejection. Her disgrace. It was all raw, undeniable. I watched her stumble as her pearls finally snapped, scattering across the floor. White beads rolled in every direction like fragments of her broken legacy. And in that glittering wreckage, she was finished. Chaos surrounded me, yet inside I felt no guilt, no regret. Only a calm, unshakable truth rising like fire through my veins. Her reign was crumbling, and I was the one who had lit the match. The ballroom was no longer a place of celebration. It was a graveyard of whispers. The music never came back. The laughter was gone, extinguished like a candle in the wind. 50 guests sat frozen in silence, a silence that weighed heavier than stone. The bride had vanished, her veil lying abandoned on the marble like a ghost of promises never kept. My brother stood hollow-eyed, staring into the wreckage of his perfect day, while my mother clung to him with trembling hands that could no longer hold on. Please, she rasped, her once commanding voice shredded to threads. You can't walk away from me. I built everything for you. I sacrificed everything. But he didn't look at her. His eyes found mine instead, piercing, searching, wounded. For a moment I glimpsed the brother I once knew, the boy I had grown up with before our mother's shadow swallowed us whole. His lips parted, but no words came. Nothing could survive in the ruin she had created. The man with the folder gave me a curt nod. His task was complete. He didn't need to stay. Truth itself was doing the work now. With those documents scattered in plain sight, my mother's empire wasn't merely fractured. It was condemned. I breathed slowly, touching the sting on my cheek one last time. That slap had set the unraveling in motion, but it wasn't pain I carried anymore. It was power. Straightening my back, I turned and walked toward the exit, my heels echoing like declarations across the hushed hall. Step by step, I left their broken kingdom behind. Camille! My mother's scream tore through the room, high and desperate, the last shreds of control slipping from her throat. Don't you dare walk out that door. I paused at the threshold, the night air spilling in cool and sharp. For the first time in years, the weight slid clean off my shoulders. I didn't turn back. My voice, steady and low, cut across the silence. I'm not walking away, Mom. I'm walking free. And as the doors shut behind me, I knew their world would never recover. But mine was only beginning. The night air outside felt crisp, cleaner than anything I had ever breathed inside that hall of lies. My heels struck the pavement with steady rhythm as I walked toward the waiting black car. The man who carried the truth opened the door without a word. We didn't need words. Silence itself was victory enough. Inside, the city stretched wide ahead, lights flickering like stars that had finally chosen to shine for me. I was no longer the daughter begging for scraps of approval, no longer the sister smothered beneath someone else's shadow. I was Camille Rivers, and my story was finally mine. In the weeks that followed, the fallout spread like wildfire. My mother's charities withdrew support, her name erased from glossy magazines that once worshipped her perfect family. Lawyers circled like vultures, and every headline cut deeper than the slap she had given me. My brother retreated into silence, haunted by the wedding that had become a cautionary tale. Guests whispered the story for months. The mother who struck her daughter, and the daughter who struck back with truth. I moved into my penthouse without hesitation, without shame. Each room felt transformed. No longer heavy with fear, but alive with freedom. Some nights I'd stand at the window, wine glass in hand, watching the city pulse below. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their poisoned idea of family. I had my own reflection, my own strength, my own peace. One evening, I found the earring, the same one that had flown off when she slapped me. It lay glinting on the marble floor, a forgotten shard of humiliation. I picked it up, held it to the light, and smiled. What once symbolized shame now gleamed as proof that I had taken the blow and risen higher. Justice hadn't come with fire or screaming. It came in silence, in distance, in watching her choke on the ruin she had built with her own hands. And as sunlight spilled across my skin while I watered the plants by my window, I whispered the truth I had earned. Some battles aren't won by shouting. Some are won by walking away, stronger, freer, untouchable.